Recording, sorry. Yeah, recording now. Okay. Does anybody would like to start? Okay.
Do we have a topic?
The topic is listening, the different types of listening that you do, and then also a time when you might reflect on how you felt when you were really listened to or heard. And or you can talk about whatever's on your mind. Would you like
the talker, does the talker have a topic?
The speaker speaks about either whatever's, you have 5 minutes to go wherever you want, or we do have a topic, and that is a reflection on listening, and then how you felt, the different types of listening, and then how you feel when you're really well listened to.
Okay. I thought we practice now listening.
Well, we are. If we start talking, you'll see as we go into it, you'll see. Would you like to start speaking, Sumita, or?
Yeah, I could, but
okay.
I'm not so sure if the idea is now that I just talk about anything or about the types of listening, how I feel.
Right. Well, sure. So the answer is both. You choose. You can choose. We provided a subject, and because this is a facilitator training, it's worthwhile. But maybe something happened this morning that's really working you, and if that's the case, we'll go there. And that's part of listening is to really, it's to feel into the other person's experience.
Okay.
So would you like to start, or you feel like a little bit put on the spot? Somebody else can start if they want.
Yeah, I just wait first.
Okay.
If someone would like to start now.
Okay. Anish, can I basically impose upon you so we can get started?
I'm happy to go first.
Great. All right. And who would you like to speak to?
So I could pick anyone, right? I mean, that's
right,
the process.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Max, would you like to listen to me for some time?
It would be my pleasure.
Okay. Great. So yeah, first of all, I'm super excited to have a group of people who are coming together to explore listening. It's a topic that is very close to my heart, and I have a lot of bubbles within me right now. I can feel it in my body that the next 1 hour is going to be very exciting for me. I'll pause.
What I'm hearing is this whole concept of empathy circles is very important to you, and you're really excited about proceeding and learning how to facilitate empathy circles on your own.
Not really. That's not what I said. I'm saying that the topic of listening is something that is very close to my heart. The whole subject of listening. And to know that for the next 1 hour, we're going to be deep diving into listening and different kinds. It makes me feel very fuzzy, and it's a very feel-good feeling that I'm experiencing in my body right now.
All right. So the topic of listening is something that is very important to you, and and knowing that we'll be talking about this issue that is very close to your heart in the next hour or so is making you feel very happy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, that's what I said. So I understand listening in many ways, and of course, the first way of listening is I have an idea that I'm listening to someone, but I'm not, because I'm just registering the words, and I'm not with that person sometimes. It usually happens when I'm doing something. Probably I'm working on the laptop, and my partner just comes and says something to me. And there is this assumption that I've heard. Of course, I've heard the words, but I've not registered it within me. So that's one kind of listening that I find myself often. I'll pause.
So what I've heard is that in your day-to-day life, sometimes you have that experience that someone is talking to you, and what they're saying is, or rather, you hear the words, but it doesn't really. I'm not sure if you like really listen to that person. If I don't know, I'm kind of lost. Could you repeat that maybe?
No, I think you got quite to an extent. I'm saying that even though my partner feels that she said to me and I heard the word, but I've not really understood what it was. I listening to the words and not understanding what the request was is something that happens often to me.
So you hear the words, but you're not always 100% sure if you process the intention or maybe the feelings or the needs behind those words. Is that fair to say, Mo? Yeah.
Yes, kind of. And it happens usually when I'm not present to what the other person is saying. It's because I'm doing something and that person did not ask for my attention or intention and then just say something and I'm like, yeah. And it's something like that. So I realize when I'm not present in the moment, I'm just hearing, I'm not listening.
Yeah, and you feel like you're not 100% in the moment and you hear the words, but yeah, it feels like you're not really, you're kind of like unhappy with that situation. Like you want to be more present and be more, like open to that person that is talking to you. Is that more or less it?
No, sometimes I don't have the awareness, like, because it just happens so fast. Like right now I'm sitting and doing something and my partner just walks in or my mother just walks in and they say something to me without asking me if I'm ready to listen to them. They just say something because they think that I'm listening to them, but it's not listening. Am I making it difficult for you? I'm so sorry. I feel
no, it's all right. It's fine. No, I'm just a bit nervous. I'm trying to do everything right, and it's fine. So what I heard is that if you get to that situation that someone is talking to you and you're not prepared, right? You just you're going about your business. Maybe you're working on a laptop, or you're not 100% in the moment, and someone says something to you, and like you react like a knee-jerk reaction. Like, yeah, sure. And that happens to you sometimes, right?
And that's one form of listening that I can clearly identify myself with.
So I didn't catch it.
That's one of the kind of listening I identify myself experiencing.
Yeah. So that's what you experience in your everyday life.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm complete.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll just stop for just a second. Don't worry if you make mistakes. I mean, I personally like to be corrected a lot because you really get to dive into the other person. So it's not about like how much you can remember or how accurate you are, but it's about building a communicative bridge. And if you need to stop, you can do that. Sorry, Anish, yes.
I also want to check if I have an accent or if I'm going too fast, then please ask me to go slow, because I understand that English is, I mean, we all have different languages and nationalities. So I would really like to be told and I can go slow. Thank you.
Sure, great. As far as I'm concerned, I can understand you fine, but that might not be the case. And it's great. And we want to include everyone. And that's the idea. Great. I'm sorry, Max, go ahead. Pick a listener and go ahead.
Gonna look at the chat. Alan, are you up for it?
Yes.
Alan? Yeah. All right, cool. Okay. Listening. What Anish said really resonated with me, because I have that same experience, not every day, but I know what he's talking about. The feeling that that people speak to you and you don't really, like, you hear the words, but it's not, you're not really, how to say that? But they don't really resonate with you. Okay.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that from that previous conversation, one of the things that resonated with you is this idea that you can hear somebody but not comprehend what they're saying.
And that is a very frustrating experience for the other person as well as for me, because I don't feel adequate in that moment. I feel like I'm not doing that other person that might be a person that is very important to me, like I'm doing them justice.
So the thing that you find that you're finding challenging about that those moments of hearing but not comprehending is that it is the effect that it has on the other person and sort of the way that it shows. I don't know if the word that you used was disrespect, but something along those lines.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and having situations like this, it kind of makes me makes me question, like makes me wonder if that makes the other person question the relationship. Like, is it noticeable? Is it like is it detrimental to our friendship, or you know?
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that the you're reflecting some of the concerns that you have about being in that space and how you know how it could reflect back on you. Being a primary concern is, you know, am I now a bad friend? Things like this.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, you have some more time. Did you feel complete for right now?
Yeah, for right now, I'm
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Alan, take a listen.
Okay. Cool. And I guess Samita.
Yes.
I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I'll say to start, I don't have a specific line of thinking that's really coming up too strongly, but I think that there's so much to the idea of listening. One thing is that it's not really a skill that we're ever really taught. We're taught reading, we're taught writing, but listening not nearly as much. Even though it's something that is part of our life and all the time.
Okay. I'm a little bit lost with the English. Would it be possible to speak a little bit more clear for you?
Yes, I could do that.
That
yes.
I can. What I was hearing is that you are that you see the listening as a part of life general, and not just comparing to empathy. Also, it's a part of life for every human. Something like that.
Yeah, the combination of it's a very important, but it's also not taught, at least in schools here in I mean, I live in California, but I think it's true for the US more generally, that listening is not a taught skill, that we believe that listening is something that is inherently learned on the playground, rather than something that we need to practice and educate ourselves on and take classes on.
Yeah, I understand you are talking about listening is not just a skill, like some see it as a skill, also an NVC. You see listening as also in school where you are in California, as a part of being. Does it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is a part of being. The other thing that I was saying is that it is not taught in education.
Type?
Taught, educated on. We don't learn to listen as a skill.
Okay. So are you mourning it that you are not learning it in your schools as a subject? Is it that you are sad about it, or?
Well, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I see. So Samita, so part of this process, you asked a very good question, but is not to ask questions, just to try to get, you know, I mean, you can ask for reclarification, of course, but just kind of see if you can get as close to what he needs to, you know, just reflect as clear as possible.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not being clear.
Not about the feelings, yeah. Just repeating what he's saying.
Yeah, you can, you know, you can go a little deeper than it doesn't have to be like a word for word thing, but you know, we just try to like, what is he feeling? What is he talking about? And we sort of try to like block out whatever our reaction is in this moment. When it's your turn to speak next time, you can react in any way you want. Right. It is awkward, and but there's a method to our madness. Okay, and if you want, if you're feeling uncomfortable, then I can reflect and do that, and you can have a little bit more time if whatever you feel comfortable with.
No, I just was a little bit lost because I did not really understand every word. So
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it that my internet is laggy, or is it that my sound isn't clear, or is it that my voice is just unintelligible for you?
No, it's just the other type of speaking English, that I don't understand every single word every time when you are speaking English in another way than me. That's just
okay.
So are you complete, Alan, or the last sentence? Did I get it how you sended it?
I mean, I think that I was just reflecting back that I was speaking to the fact that it's not educated, and we don't learn the skill set intentionally. We learn it unintentionally through other things.
Okay, I'm hearing that you are learning listening in your schools not so intentionally like other things.
Yes. Yeah. So like, you know, math, there's a whole lesson book. You sit down and, you know, you start with your numbers, and you know what the numbers are, and then you go into addition, and then you can go into subtraction, and there's sort of a path and a curriculum. There are, in my opinion, just as many complex and complicated subtleties to listening and being able to really participate collaboratively in conversation. And I think that it is, I think that we would have a better time of a lot of things if we were better at that skill in particular.
Okay, I'm a little bit lost because of many information, but what I heard was that you see many subjects and you're comparing them with the possibility of the subject listening. So
yeah,
that
sounds right. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, Sumita, I just want to say thank you for your brave coming to the circle and not having English as your first language. I speak one language. and so I personally really appreciate it when somebody, you know, makes the effort, and let me know if there's anything I can do to basically make things easier for you. It's your turn to speak. Why don't you pick a listener?
Yeah, I feel kind of lost now because.
So who are you speaking to? So pick a person.
Yeah, I pick you, Bill.
Okay,
I thought you
I'll
were
be
a
happy to
listener.
reflect. Okay,
Yeah.
so I heard you're feeling lost and a little confused right now.
Yeah, because in my understanding, I thought it's something like we are training listening in an empathic way. So I tried to be present with the last guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a little bit confused about your interruption. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you thought this was empathic listening, and so listening or learning to listen in an empathic way, and you were talking about your experience in reflecting, Alan, and then it seems that my interruption also, caused you some questions and maybe some discomfort.
No, not discomfort. It's just irritation and kind of lost because I try to repeat also the needs. So what I'm learning in NVC is that when somebody is talking and I'm listener, that I also repeat with the needs words.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, I'm sorry, finish up.
Yeah, that's complete.
Okay, so you're saying, so you're confused because you have experience in NVC and then you look for the needs, and that wasn't, and this is a different experience. And so we're not doing NVC here. So there's, you're confused about that. And you're a little bit irritated at my interruption.
No, I'm not guessing that we are not doing NVC here. That's not right.
All right, so correct me, sure.
I just still lost because I remember that I asked him if he's sad about it, just to understand what he's saying, because when I get many information, I'm a little bit lost sometimes as a listener. And then you interrupt me that we are not going that deep. So I'm just asking him for his feeling in this case. And I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay. So you were asking Alan about his feeling about this issue, and you felt that that was really going deeper and would help you understand it, and I interrupted you and stopped that.
Yeah, I did not really understand the confusion.
Okay, so you didn't really understand why I would do that, it seemed to be, well, irritating, as you used the word.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Are you done for now? You have some more time.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see. Who hasn't? Anish, will you listen to me? Okay.
Yes.
So partially, what Sumita said, resonated with me. First of all, I don't take it personally. It seems that in my life, I've been able to irritate many people, and I don't mean it, but nevertheless, that this is an evolving, to understand this process, it's an evolving process, and there's a lot of mistakes made, including by me. I'll stop there.
Yeah. So yeah, you're just reflecting back in the last interaction that you had with Sumita, and you kind of feel that it wasn't intentional. However, you have in the past irritated people, not out of choice, but it has happened. And you just want to acknowledge that and yeah.
Right. And again, when listening is such an open and rich subject, but the reason why in the circle we don't, as a reflective listener, ask questions, like you could, like when it's your turn to speak, you can, is because that interrupts the speaker. in where they're going. And so even though, I mean, I agree it was a wonderful question. I don't dispute anything that it was Sumita was asking to go deeper, want to really understand. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the process, when we ask questions, even clarifying questions, we don't know what's happening for the speaker. And so we try to kind of let them go there. And that's why we try not to ask questions in the reflective listening. I'll stop there.
Yeah. So, Bill, what I understand is that you're trying to explain why you do not ask questions as a listener in the process of reflection, because we would really like to stay with the speaker and let them decide where they want to go. And when we ask questions to them, sometimes it's possible that it may take them somewhere else or something else may happen. So we are only trying to focus on reflecting without asking questions. Even when we ask clarifying questions, we're trying to just keep it very simple.
Yes, for that. And that being said, certainly we can ask, can you repeat that? And if there's, understanding and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like, it's an art. And it's just this circle experience, which is, I agree, it's different from other types. And so certainly it's very natural for it to feel awkward. Certainly when I started, I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. So what I hear now is you're saying that the kind of listening that we are practicing here is an art, and it has taken a lot of time to learn this, especially knowing other forms of listening in other formats and other places. And in the process of learning this way of reflective listening, you have made many mistakes in the past, and it's work in progress.
Exactly. And that's not to put down other types of listening. What we say about this is it's a foundational practice. If we're doing that, and I encourage people to kind of reflect on their feelings at the end of this. When we do the debrief and stuff, how did it feel? And that sort of, I think, in my opinion, basically helps us tamp down our defense mechanisms so that we gain this trust. And from that, that's a base to doing NVC, human-centered design, whatever else, therapy, and things like that. I'll stop there.
So Bill, what you're saying is that the kind of reflective listening we are doing here is a kind of building a foundation where we are developing trust with the other person, saying, hey, I am listening to you, or I hear you. And once that trust is established through the reflective listening, we can then build on other processes like NVC or human-centered designs, and we can build upon that.
Yeah, and then just in my last thing, I wanted to reflect what Alan said, is that actually, and it might be a project that he or anybody else is interested, I'm a retired special education teacher. And so therefore, listening was key to, first of all, establish the trust with my student, and then so to make them feel heard. And when they felt heard, my time is up. When they felt, sorry, I hate this. When this timer's up, okay, I got it. Sorry about that. When they felt heard, then they ability or their desire to act out physically, which they were quite disturbed, really reduced. So when somebody acted out and hit somebody, we would get together and we would say, what's the communicative intent for that student? And if we could figure that out and then address it, then the violence went down. And I think this is what we need right now. And I'm calling time on myself. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and is it okay if I reflect back?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, just.
Okay. So Bill, and the space where you're coming from is from your experience. You are a retired special education teacher where you have worked with children with special needs. And one of the things that you learned in that practice was when children were trying to communicate something in their own ways, you really took time to slow down and understand what is that they're trying to communicate. So that was in a form of understanding what they want to say And then once it built the trust, it really became easy for you, or it became easier than before to work with them.
Yeah. Thank you, Anish. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Alan, is it okay if I speak to you? Okay. Wow. First thing what I want to say is, when you said that listening is not a skill that is taught, it just made me feel so connected to that. And that's been my sadness that I carry around, that how come the skill is not taught, even when we need it so much in our lives. I'll pause. Alan, you're muted.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that there was a line of thinking that I talked about when I was speaking that resonated for you, which is that the lack of education or learning on the topic of listening is a need, and that you personally would have felt that it would have been helpful for you.
Yeah, thank you. So it just when I heard it, I gave myself the permission to just think about it a little bit more, because I knew that somebody was listening to you. And one of the thoughts that came to me is, yeah, I mean, most of my formative listening, or my early years of listening, I actually picked it up from my family and my friends and my education, and where it was usually about this power over, or this one-way type of telling you that you do this or you do that. That form of listening is very different, where I had lack of choices.
Right. So I'm hearing you say that the ways that listening manifested for you when you were young and learning the skill of listening really broke down into a few categories. One being, do what you're like, here's something for you to do it, which is, its own type of listening.
Yeah. And I think that's why 10 years ago, when I started my work, and I'm a trainer, I'm a consultant who works with groups, one of the topics that has always been very close to my heart is communication as a process. And in my earlier years, I realized how much I focused on what we are communicating and how we are communicating, like the words, the language, the accent, and so many things. I kept thinking that that's where communication kind of resided. I'll pause.
Yeah. So I reflect, and you cut out for a second when you were saying what your specific job is, but that in your job you find that there are specific lines of like types of conversation and and listening that happen in the workplace, and those are their own. It's sort of like what you were saying in the first conversation, that when you were really young, you were getting your listening took the form of being told, and that there's a similar thread that happens in the workplace for you today.
Okay, a part of it is right. In my workplace, I thought that communication was, and I was teaching it to others as a trainer on communication skills, that real communication is about what you say. It's about the sender, and so pay attention to the words, pay attention to your messaging and all of that. And it took me some time to realize that that was just half of the story. I'll pause.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that the skill of communication is more than the ability to speak well, and is also sort of the receiving aspect of being able to take something from that, and as it is intended, perhaps, or but that's a whole skill set, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, just want to stick with this idea and not go into the other one, because I have an internal clock ticking on. So what I really focused on, the major part of my life, the first few years of my life, is to speak articulately, use fancy words, big fancy stuff, languages, images, and yet I was not understood. And I was like, what is happening? Like, what do I say that they understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So this idea that like, it was frustrating for you to feel that you were being very good at the skill of speaking, but weren't being heard. And so it felt like there was some sort of misalignment in the communication.
Yeah. And the last bit on that is, one thing that really opened up the doors in my mind, and it's a very funny one, is a movie called Rush Hour. It had Jackie Chan and Carter, and they both could not understand each other. They did not speak the same language, and yet they had a communication which was based on something more primitive and more evolutionary. And that just opened up my mind, and I really questioned myself, is communication or listening about language, or there's something more to that? And
yeah, so you were saying that like one example of media that has sort of spoken to sort of these challenges in communication and speaking versus being heard is the film Rush Hour with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, a wonderful film.
Yes.
And that there's a theme in that movie of getting to know each other, leading to understanding, that I think you're saying is resonated with you.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard, Alec. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess that means it's my turn next.
Right.
Great. See, Max, would you like to hear me?
Sure, go.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about what would a curriculum for listening look like. And I realized that it breaks down in a lot of different ways, and I haven't really fully thought that out, but I'm going to try to sort of speak through what are the areas of listening that might need to be sort of thought about more deeply.
You were saying that you were thinking about what a curriculum of listening would look like. Maybe in a school context, and what it would break down into, which components it would break down into.
Yeah. One thing that's coming up to me is that it's not just speaking, it's not just being heard, but it's also this piece of what are you listening to, and there's a whole area of decision making that goes into what you're listening to and how you're interpreting it for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And while thinking about this, you realize that it's not only about being heard, but also about what you're listening to, which I personally didn't quite get it.
Sure. Yeah, I can sort of continue on that thread. So, I mean, we sort of understand there's a lot of channels that come in. We understand that there's a lot of different things that you could spend your time on. There's all sorts of filter bubbles. There's all sorts of echo chambers, especially today. And part of listening is not just to listen to the things that fall right in front of your face, but also to choose to listen in such a way that you have a broader picture.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's not only about so this is my interpretation a bit, that it's not a that we're kind of, everyone is in their own bubble, in their own echo chamber, so to say, and so it's very important to try to broaden your horizon, to also listen to other, maybe to points of view that are different points of view that are maybe opposing to you. Did I get this right?
Yeah. Yes, I think that that's true, and also not to put a judgment on what is the right way to be in the world, but to recognize it as an important skill set in the sort of tool belt of listening, is to recognize how to seek out and participate in forms of listening that might be less obvious.
Mm-hmm. So what I heard is that it's also very important to be like, to keep an open mind and to keep that curiosity towards other points of view. And could you maybe repeat the last bit? I didn't get that acoustically.
Sure. So the last bit was something along the lines of it's part of the tool belt is deciding what you're going to spend your time on, and what you're going to be listening to and having conversation in.
Mm-hmm. So it's maybe it's a skill in itself to figure out what you're listening to, what you maybe what is maybe what you would help. No. So it's a skill to figure out what you should be listening to. Sorry, I didn't quite understand. I'm sorry.
I think that's a pretty good reflection. You know, and speaking in terms of there being a curriculum for listening, just that would be part of it.
Mm-hmm. So this should also be included in this curriculum of listening that you are imagining.
Yeah.
This skill.
Thank you. I feel heard. Covered.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, of course.
Okay, so it's my turn, and Sumita, are you ready? Okay.
Yes.
So this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's that listening sometimes seems to be so hard to do. That we hear judgments, that we hear insults, criticism, whatever, and that it's very hard to discern the feelings and needs behind those words. Pause.
Yeah, I'm hearing that you're saying that to listen is very hard for you sometimes, because there is a possibility more to hear the judgments, the insults, and the criticisms, and to listen through the empathic way is very hard sometimes.
Yeah, kind of. I think that was it's not something that I personally feel all the time, but something that I think is a general problem. Like, I think this is something that we all do. We all hear criticism and judgments, and that for all of us, it's like we usually have a hard time realizing what the feelings and needs are behind the words that we hear.
Yeah, you are thinking that it's a general problem for humans to listen without judgment or without judging, and to hear the real word behind it. And so it's quite a learning step for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering what kind of world we could create if we had this skill. Like Alan has been talking about how you could turn this into a curriculum, and this idea of having to learn how to listen really resonates with me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that you have some resonation with that, what was Ellen telling you. You are asking yourself, how can we create a world where we are really listening to other people without judging. And so the idea of Ellen to drop it into a subject was really resonating with you, and you're connected with that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And yeah, perfectly fine. Yeah, and this and I think it's a really valuable skill to be able to listen to really listen to empathically listen to someone, because it makes you feel it's like you're less worried. You don't feel attacked. You don't feel insulted. All these negative feelings, you don't have to feel them because they're not real.
Yeah, you're talking about the value. It's a big value when you really listen to someone, when you're really present with someone, and without all this stuff around it, like interpretation, judging. So this is really when it's really true like that.
You sure? And it's also that it makes, like, I personally think that it makes life easier for you if you stop listening to criticism and stop listening, if you realize what the feelings and needs are behind criticism and judgments and whatever. I think that your own life would really improve, because these judgments and criticisms are not really real, because they're just, if you listen to what is behind them.
Yeah, I'm getting that you are thinking that it's more easy to listen to other people when you are learning, like what we learn in NVC, what is behind all these judgments, and when you can really understand what is really the empathy. So that when you can let go down all the judgment, when you can transformate the judgment, then it's easier to listen.
Yeah, it feels like a weight taken off of you once you realize you don't have to be like, you don't have to feel insulted or attacked. If you realize that you can always listen to what the person says, that other person that is talking to you and criticizing you or whatever, and go deeper and basically go to the roots.
Yeah, right, the realizing. You are talking about when humans are realizing the new thinking of how to listen to other. When they realize how it goes with empathy and without judgment, then it's like a aha effect, something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I feel heard. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Sumita, your turn to speak.
Yeah. I'm thinking now.
Okay. So-
Yeah, Bill, I would say you, no?
Okay,
Because you.
that's fine. And I just want to say, if you need some time to collect, we'll stay with you in silence. Sometimes people
Okay.
feel pressure to talk, and sometimes you need some time to, and that's fine too. Okay, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
I just was thinking about Max, if I could get some empathy from, some listening from him, because he's German like me. And
Oh,
so
did you want to talk to
that was
Max?
just,
Yeah,
no,
you can
no,
talk back.
no,
Oh.
it just was coming up in me, but we
Okay.
are anyway speaking here in English, so just
Okay.
because of German, yeah.
Right. So originally you were thinking of talking to Max because he shares your language. It'd be easier for you to talk.
Yeah, that was just coming up, but I'm now fine. I like to be listened by you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So you're up for the challenge.
Yeah, I'm still not so clear about this compass here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel a little bit stressed here, and I'm not so enjoying this here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so you're feeling a little bit stressed and you're not enjoying this. This is something, you know, you have some questions about it.
No, I'm not questioning. I'm just that I'm not so much enjoying, and the reason is that what I know from my life is when another person is saying something or talking, and I'm listening. When he's saying a lot of information, it's a very stressful thing, really, to remember all the information.
So you're saying what's stressing you out is the difficulty of remembering all the information that the speaker might say.
Yeah, and now today here, I felt stressed that it's just about repeating. What I understand or what I think is it's just about repeating, and it's much also in head. So I'm missing a little bit listening by heart, because I'm always trying to listen also when the other persons are speaking by mind, because we are all sharing a lot of information.
So what you're feeling that's missing from this process is that it's a lot in your head, and you're missing the heartfelt part of it, and you're feeling that, you know, you're in your head, and again, you're missing the kind of heart of it, or that experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my understanding, it comes up because the exercise is about person A is saying something and person B is repeating. So I heard once that more than, I don't know, 20 words, it's very hard to repeat when another person is saying more than 20 words. And that is really a challenge here in this group. Okay.
So it's very hard for you when in English, when somebody says more than 20 words, for you to, you know, to hold that. So that's the challenge and the stress that you're feeling right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm okay. I'm complete.
Okay, so you feel heard for right now. Okay. All right. All right, I'll talk to Alan.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, how you doing? Okay. Yeah. So I'm feeling what Sumita says, and as a facilitator, I'm kind of feeling like if there's anything I can do to make her feel more comfortable or anything like that, I would yeah, I'd be happy to do that. But I'm a little bit lost. I don't know quite exactly how to do that, or whether I should. Maybe you know, maybe I should, you know. Anyway, I'll stop there before I make things worse.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is that the conversation that we just heard between you and Samita is a difficult one to have as a facilitator, because you're in a role of trying to keep the space and hold space for people, and you know, when somebody's having a challenge, you know, you're in the position to help deal with that. And so, yeah, there's a tangible feeling that you feel in your body as a facilitator in that situation.
Yeah. And then the, you know, but the other part of that is that I enjoy being challenged, and I'm not perfect. You know, I'm a work in progress as well. And so, and my facilitation is a work in progress. So, you know, so even though it might be uncomfortable for me, I really appreciate, you know, being stretched.
Yeah. So I hear you saying that you accept your humanity, you accept your that room to grow is part of what makes the you know, it's part of everything.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And that you're willing to be wrong on some things in the interest of growing into new things.
Yeah. Part of it is in the empathy circles. It's okay to fail. Yeah. I used to tell my students, I said, you know, because in my culture and on the American culture, it's like win is not, you know, the one guy said, well, winning is not, you know, the only thing, it's everything, or whatever like that. And I said, no, I said, you know, it's okay to, you know, to win or be successful, and it's okay to fail. I said, the difference is a give up attitude, because that which turns failure into success. So I wouldn't let my students just say, oh, I can't do this or something like that. I wouldn't, you know, force them overly. But on the other hand, you know, okay, well, you're not ready to deal with it now. We'll deal with it tomorrow, but deal with it we will, because I believe in your ability to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I hear you reflecting back on what you sort of mentioned, that you have a history of being an educator. And so that part of the way that you think about education is that you believe in people, and you believe that continuing to learn is important, even if you can't necessarily learn in this moment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm very interested, you know, one of the things I'm trying to do is bring this practice into schools. I think this would be an excellent practice for several reasons. One of the main reasons is that the student is actually gaining skills. So you're not training a student, oh, I need to be heard, and then I can go to these people to be heard. But you're training students to be independently, to listen and to hear other students. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. So I hear that what you're saying is that you're interested in bringing this practice into schools, which is awesome. And you are of the belief that doing so has a lot of tangible benefits, because the thing that we're talking about here is a tangible skill that is useful in a very real way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alan. I feel fully heard. Just want to say that it's about the time that we might be pulled in. You'll see a thing, this, you know, Edwin will send something, and then I'll take you back into the main room if it happens. I think we have time for at least one more. So go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's see. Everybody's heard me, I think, at this point, except for you, Bill.
Okay, I'm listening.
Great. So there were a few lines of thread that I wanted to touch on. One that's coming up in this conversation is that one of the things that makes the skill of listening so important is that we live in a non-homogenized world. We live in a world where there are a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different ways of communicating, and being good at communicating within a sort of within an affinity group is not the same as being able to practice the skill of listening outside of your affinity group. And well, I'll start there.
Okay. So you were talking about how important the skill of listening is, especially in dealing with people in heterogeneous groups who don't come from different experiences and possibly different opinions than you do.
So the word I used was homogeneous. I don't know the definition of heterogeneous, or if that is reflecting my meaning. But just to say that my meaning is that one of the reasons why listening needs to be a skill is that we live in a world where where we encounter people who have different points of view, different ways of talking, and that's part of the beauty, but it also makes it so that listening and conversation and communication is a more nuanced skill set.
Okay, so you're talking about the real complexity and depth of listening, and how in our society where you have people of different perspectives, it really helps in bridging the communicative gap.
Yeah. And this brings me to one of the things I spoke to a little bit in like a previous part of the circle, is that there are so many invisible barriers that prevent us from talking to other people. And I talk often about, those invisible barriers might be age, they might be sort of where you live, they might be religion, they might be politics, they might be racially related. And so there's a lot of these invisible lines, and that those lines are specifically damaging because they get in the way of communication and listening in large part.
Okay, so you're saying that there are many barriers to and challenges to listening, such as race, age, and various other perspectives, different experiences, and and that's a difficult environment, and it requires understanding and nuance.
Yeah, and specifically that I find myself, and I think that a lot of people do, would be my perspective, but I'm willing to be wrong on that. But it is my perspective that we are in a society that doesn't actively try to make spaces where people can interact with people who might have a different opinion is easy to do. If you go into a bar, for example, you're very likely to continue hanging out with the people that you entered with, or people who seem like people you might know, rather than sitting down at a table with a complete stranger, like completely randomly. There are social norms that generally prevent us from doing these things.
So you're talking about the tendency of human beings to basically associate with people they assume are like-minded or dressing the same or whatever, and we really haven't, society hasn't addressed or taught the skills or encouraged us or created the space where people who come from different perspectives can meet and communicate.
Yeah. And sort of as a final thing, I think that barrier gets in the way of listening in very large part.
Okay. So that barrier of the different perspectives, different experiences gets in the way of listening.
Yes, the societal sort of assumption that I'm referring to here directly leads to a culture where we're not listening to each other, we're not communicating, and we end up in our filter bubbles.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like if you're, sorry, but the dominant paradigm doesn't really support people kind of getting out of their own particular bubbles.
Correct. Yes, I feel heard.
Great. I don't know exactly when we should be put in. Would anyone else like to speak at this particular point? Anybody would like to speak? We might get cut off. So I can. Anish, go ahead.
I could do a quick one.
Sure.
So just a summary for myself.
Okay. Who are you listening to? Who are you speaking to? Sorry.
Sumita, would you like to hear me? Oh, I think she's frozen.
Oh, there she is. Oh, you're back. You're alive, Sumita.
Hi.
Hi.
Sumita, is it okay if I speak to you?
Yes.
Okay. Sumita, this is something that came up so alive in me when I was listening you speak to others in the room. I'll pause. Now, I'm going to use short sentences. So I'm just saying that this is what I'm going to share is something that happened to me when I saw you speaking to others.
Yeah, you like to share about what came up in you when I was talking to others.
Yes, thank you. So this is a real life scenario for me. My partner, my life partner, she's from Moscow, Russia. I'm an Indian guy. And the only language we speak or use to communicate with each other is English.
Mm-hmm. You have a girlfriend from Russia?
Yes, I mean, she's my life partner. We're married.
She's your wife, and you're from India. So the only base language between you and her is English.
Yes, and it's not my native language, and it's not her native language.
Yeah, it's not her and not your native language.
Yeah, so sometimes when we really want to communicate something very emotional that becomes very sweet and comes from the heart, it's a big challenge to use a language which is not our common language.
Yeah, sometimes when people like to speak in an emotional way, it's very hard to do it when it's not your own language.
Yeah, and so what has really helped us and worked for us, and this is where I'm thinking about listening as a process, is to be gentle with each other and to be a little more curious about what the other person is saying.
What you have learned is to be gentle with others and to be curious with others when you're listening.
Yeah, when I say others, I'm talking about me and my partner. Yeah. So
you're talking about you and your partner.
Yeah. So a lot of times I say something in English and I say it very fast. She just looks at me and she smiles at me and she says, "Okay, can you repeat it? Because I have no idea what he said."
Sometimes she said, "Can you repeat it?" Because you have no idea what she's saying.
Yeah, and that's why so now, again, I'm learning about listening from such a personal experience of, now this is the kind of listening that I'm also learning in NVC. We've been practicing it. So between me and my partner, we both are practicing NVC for about 3.5 years. So it helps us without having to get stuck with language or a lot of words of English.
you're talking about this kind of you is helping you, you and your partner, and you're together learning NVC since 3.5 years.
Yes. And still, when we are talking to other people, I don't use NVC because they have no idea about what they're talking. So I still have to use a different skill, which kind of allows me to paraphrase and summarize and stuff like that.
When you're talking to co-eigner, you are not
Others,
so much,
yeah.
Others, you're not so much, or you're absolutely not using, I don't know, NVC, because they don't know NVC.
Yeah, I think that's my time, so I'll just pause. Thank you for listening. I feel heard.
I would like to say just one sentence to you, Anish.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also half Indian, so
Okay.
so it's a kind of same nation.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Well, that was our taste, and then you'll see a box and it says click on that return to main session, sorry, and then we'll go back into the room. Okay. I think we had, what, 15? Okay. Ah, there we go. Okay. Well, welcome back. We're going to do a little kind of, harvesting major, what hit you, what was important. And we'll just do, short little, reflection on what happened. And I'll just start right away. And to Wasu, if again, correct me, because I'm going to try until I get your name right. Is that okay? All right. All right. Could you start us off, please? And you're muted.
So my experience for session.
Yeah.
It's my first experience in empathy cycles, and I felt firstly I feel anxious, but after the cycles, and I felt fully heard and that kindness of all of yours, and it's the first steps to get to catch up deeper understanding. This is the first step. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Samantha.
We had a lot of great topics and ideas come up. And I guess what's just sitting with me right now is, because I've participated in multiple empathy circles, and I feel every time, once the time's up, it's always like, oh, there's so much more we could have said or done. But then at the same time, so often the empathy circles last quite a while, and so I'm left with this dichotomy of like wanting to keep going, but then it being time to stop and having that boundary. And how do you handle that? Because it tends to feel incomplete for me a lot of times.
Great, thanks, Samantha. Pavel?
Hello. So I got a few points. First, that empathy circles, they support your emotional well-being. The second point was, how can we make the process for the new people that join the empathy circles, since to some people they may find it mentally exhausting due to trying too hard in their reflections. So how can we make it easier for them to adapt so they come back later? And then the other topic that came up was about the inner and outer listening, that we should listen to our thoughts, feelings. We should let them emerge and acknowledge them, reflect upon them, and ultimately this will help us to be better outer listener. And the other point was what can we do to connect better as a group? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot to think about there. Aoife.
Yeah, I was struggling to begin with my internet connection, and then I restarted my modem and it was okay. So that was a lesson. Maybe I should have done that before the session. Yeah, I was in the same. So all of the things that Pavel and Samantha and Atul were saying. I think the clarity that came from me in this session was the self-responsibility, you know, your own inner process, and then the group dynamic. They're very similar things, but they are two distinct things. And I like the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I love that saying. Mm-hmm. And I think it just, what you see in yourself in the group is what's in yourself. But the group can definitely help through the process of empathy. The connecting force of empathy can help you to heal or to evolve through whatever hindrances you have. That's it.
Thank you, Aoife. Greg.
I thought it went very well, pretty much. And I think that Lulu is very a good facilitator and leader, because I sort of saw him modeling things that I didn't really get before I saw them being modeled, as well as Brian, who was in our group, really felt like he was, well, everybody, Dean and Katrina as well. I felt like I was learning from them, because things on paper is like, oh, here's what you do. But then you see it in action. It's kind of different. So it was good.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Brian.
Yeah, what I learned most was from Katrina reflecting back me, and she could barely take in what I said, but she reflected back just this amazing energy that I barely even realized I was putting out, all this excitement. Mm-hmm. And she kind of just was like exasperated. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I was so excited and high, you know, talking about what I was sharing. So the power of that just without words was amazing too. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Katrina?
Yeah, this was the first empathy circle I've ever done. So it was quite a bit of a steep learning curve for me, but a lot of it felt very familiar, a sort of familiar territory, but new territory at the same time. The group that I was in was really nice, but very comfortable, felt very comfortable. And I really enjoyed the way that Lou led the group and kind of modeled for us, you know, the way it works without too much explanation or intellectualizing about it. And for me, I think the actual reflecting back is a very new experience and one that I'm keen to practice again. I think that's, you know, it's baby steps for me. That's where I'm at the moment, learning how to reflect back. So thank you. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you, Katrina. Dean?
I'll just say, Katrina, you did really well at reflecting. I was very blessed again to be in such a wonderful group of warm souls. I did find myself panicking as usual to start off with, but then when I stopped trying to listen to the words and listen to the meaning, I could reflect the meaning far more easily than I could reflect the actual words. It's a privilege yet again. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dean. Max?
I really enjoyed the experience. I really enjoyed exchanging thoughts and ideas with like-minded people. And what I realized is that doing all this in English is much harder than I initially thought, but I do enjoy a good challenge, so that's great. And yeah, thanks to Bill for facilitating, and I had a really good feeling with the group, and it was good fun, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Alan.
Yeah. So I can't remember when or if I've done empathy circles before, but this format does feel familiar for me. And so it was nice to sort of be reminded and refreshed on it. I know that our topic as a group was listening. I'm not sure if everybody was talking about the same topic. But I like the way that these conversations actually happen a lot slower. And as you get used to that pace, the things that you say end up being more intentional.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Sumita?
Yeah, this is also my first empathy circle here. And yeah, first, I like to say thank you to my group and to the facilitator. And yeah, I did not really enjoy it so much. And I'm also have to reflect for myself what I learned today, because it was very structured in my understanding and also a kind of intellectual today. And I found it a kind of stressful to repeat and to be repeated word by word, and not so much go with what coming up. So I'm not so sure if I come back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for your contribution, and whatever you decide, I appreciated you being here today, and it helped me to grow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the circle was very fascinating for me for many reasons. I am comfortable with the format. I found comfort in the format, let me say that, of reflective and summarizing and paraphrasing. And yet, to be an observer in the circle, I have this huge discomfort sitting in my heart right now, where, and I'm almost getting emotional about it, where I see how language can be a connector and it can be a barrier as well. I speak 3 languages fluently. I understand 7 languages very well, and yet there is so much pain around not being able to connect with another person because of language, and the pressure of language is very real. So that's something that I'm going to take back with me, and yeah, and language is just the first barrier. The cultural, there's so much more diversity than I can never understand. So I'm really questioning myself, will I ever be able to listen to another person with my fullness and their fullness? So that's alive in me right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Lou?
Well, I'm actually really moved by what Anish just said, because I'm also, so I'm going to think about that too. Yeah, that kind of cultural complexity, language complexity. Yeah, there's a part of me, the part that, the lessons that I've gotten from nonviolent communication about the idea that, you know, there's a basic set of human values or human needs that we all have, and those needs get expressed in different ways in different cultures. But underneath, they're the same. That has served me really well in my life, connecting with others. And so I'd love to hear more from Anish about what he said.
Thanks, Lou. Edwin?
Yeah, I enjoy the sort of the exploration of listening, you know, looking at it from all different aspects, and and from different perspectives that others have. Somehow I'd like to kind of capture that in some way, more documented. I had a lot more to say. It's like, I think like Samantha, like Sam, you're saying, it's like, it's just, hey, it could have gone for another hour, really. There's just so much more. And we talked about the importance of feelings. And I know Tu mentioned, she's from Myanmar, was struggling with, shared some of her struggles and anxieties and shared that feeling of anxiety. And I could feel that in the room. And I felt the real connection, and we all had a real appreciation for her sharing that. So I found, with the language, it was the underlying feelings were very real and very connecting. So I guess I don't have there's a little bit language issues, but underneath there, I felt real connection. So yeah, that's what came up for me.
Well, I really appreciated the people in the room, and also the challenges that were presented, and it helps me to grow. And I just want to say that people who for whom English is not their first language, I really appreciate the gift that you give me in sharing your perspective with me that I wouldn't get otherwise. It's my failure of just speaking, being monolingual, that circumscribes it. So when you make that brave, I think, outreach, it touches my heart, and I want to thank people. I do want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here, and this is like the beginning of a facilitation training. And so we are going to be going on Thursday, and then the next Tuesday, and then the next Thursday after that. And I realize that people have different agendas and goals here and experiences with the Empathy Circle. You may not be ready to do the facilitation training yet, but we are going to do that. We do have open cafes on 10 a.m. Pacific on Friday, where we're talking about the values of a culture of empathy, and then also on Saturday, where we're talking about right now Extinction Rebellion's demands. So that's another way you can kind of dip your toe in the water. But we also really want to get together a cohort here who will stick together for the training if you feel ready for that, and we'd love to take this off. Edwin, Lou, you want to say anything more about that? Yeah.
I could say a few words. Yeah. So we're trying to develop a training workflow. So right now we have the Facebook event page. Anybody can join there. We find a time when people can join a cohort. Maybe it wasn't really well explained, but and I just created a survey which I'll put in there, and it kind of goes through and kind of asks just a little bit about yourself, and also mentions that really to take part in this training, you would want to have taken part in 3 empathy circles before. And we know because it was out, just out in public, that people might not have seen that, but ideally you would have taken part in 3 empathy circles before you take part in the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. And you can actually count today, I guess, as an experience of one of those empathy circles. And if you haven't done other empathy circles, like Bill was saying, Friday would be great to take part in that, because it's the deep dive into the values of a culture of empathy, which Lou kind of began to mention some of those. We are sort of developing a process. It's still sort of in the works, and we're trying to create the workflow. So we really would love to have any sort of feedback, how to make that more effective, and hopefully we'll be creating cohorts ongoing every several weeks, have another cohort, and so have that be sort of an ongoing training. And then people can join a Empathy Circle support group, which we have every Friday, and eventually have some training so you can become a train the trainer as well. So we're developing a whole sort of a curriculum, and this is sort of one of the first steps. Well, some other of our group too have been holding some other trainings, more specific facilitator training specifically for the Extinction Rebellion group, which I know Aoife has been part of too. So that's just some thoughts that are coming up for me. And I just put the link into the survey if you want to take that survey if you haven't.
Is this the post-class survey or the pre-class survey?
Pre-class, ideally.
So are you also going to send out a post-class survey?
We don't have one
feedback?
yet.
We don't have
still
one
need
yet.
to create
Okay.
that.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to express appreciation for everyone, especially the people that I was in the Empathy Circle with. I really enjoyed all of you and appreciate your participation. Yeah, so I'm excited by what's happened today and looking forward to diving deeper into not just the Empathy Circle, but the role of the facilitator and what role does the facilitator play in terms of holding the circle and guiding it, and what kind of challenges come up in doing that, and what are ways to respond to that. Those are some of the things we'll be addressing over the course of our time together in the subsequent classes. So thank you, everyone.
Okay. Just if you are and you've got the experience and you are interested, please respond to us to let us know, because we'll be doing this on, again, on Thursday and the next Tuesday and the Thursday after that. So we just have to, it would help us to know like who's in for the facilitating training. Maybe you're not ready now. You want to take a few more circles. You're just seeing, I know there's some people exploring. That's fine as well. If you're ready at a later date, that's great. If you're not, that's all great too. And we just hope that your experience, helped widen your perspective. Okay.
I might mention, I'm just seeing Anish and Samantha just posted in the chat. If you're committed to continue with the next 3, you can just say, I'm
okay. So okay, great. Thank you for all those responses. Thank you. It feels really good. So thanks. Lou, anything else before we?
No, I think since people are posting things in the chat, so something that I like to do sometimes at the end of a class is say, so what question are you sitting with right now, given the experience that you had? So if people want to post whatever that question that's in your mind that you might be sitting with right now, it'd be interesting to hear that feedback.
Okay, great. And then
we will be creating a survey too. So hopefully we'll have surveys, post surveys too for future classes.
Yeah. And Anish wants to say something.
Yeah,
go ahead, Anish.
I think the question would be too long, so I would rather ask it here, and I don't expect an answer. So I know for sure that attending one of the circles, empathy circles, really gave me an insight of what to expect from here today. So I came mentally prepared. The question that I have to you now is, people who come directly, how do you ensure that it's not shock and awe for them? Like, I feel sad when knowing that people are shocked and it was not what they expected, not for them to come back, create sadness in me. So maybe as an organizer, you could probably have some more balance and checks. Because I found a lot of merit in coming and attending a circle, which allowed me to come back and be a part of this training.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, we want to respect your time. I'm sorry, Pavel.
Yes, something to what Anish said as well. So Sumita said that the experience wasn't pleasant for her and she doesn't think that she will come back. And kind of my question is like, what would have to be different so the process was easier for her and she would come back?
Right, good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we'll see you. I see a lot of on Thursday. I'm excited. And if you're not coming back, our door is still open whenever you might feel ready.
Yes.
Thanks.
Everyone, thank you.
Okay.
Could you so tell me, is it the same time on Thursday?
Yes. It is.
All right, okay. I can make it then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you, Dean. Good to see you.
Okay. Do you want to stop the recording?
I did. Oh. I thought I did. It's weird.
I was recording mine, and I don't know exactly what happened, but when I came back into the main room, it was still recording, but I didn't want to turn it off in case I turned off your recording.
Oh, no, it doesn't. It just,
Okay.
Did you turn yours off now?